Atlanta News First Plus starts now.
And thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk on Atlanta News First Plus. I am Maria Moreau here with your top headlines that we're following for this Wednesday morning. And we're going to start by taking you out to Banks County, where we have our Atlanta News First reporter Don Shipman joining us from the First Alert Breaking News Tracker. And Don, this is something we were reporting on the morning show throughout the morning. And now we're continuing to follow this investigation about a shooting involving an officer. What's the latest on what you're hearing?
With the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and they told me that no officer was hurt in this shooting. So that is the good news in this. No officer hurt. And what we know is that it is under investigation. The GBI has been called in. Banks County Sheriff's Office calling in the GBI to investigate. And we made our way to that area. We just are now making our way to the Georgia of Investigation. I want you to take a look at the video too, because you can see what they were doing. They were diverting traffic in the area of Commerce, the exit 149, I believe that is. You can see all of those orange cones there. You can see that line of traffic. And this all started right around 5:30 this morning. And there was so much traffic backed up. All of those tractor trailers, all of those vehicles, all of those cars trying to get to work this morning. And this is I-85, the northbound direction, and it was backed up for hours. I want to say right around 9:30 this morning, they opened it up to one lane of traffic, and that's when we were able to get into that area, and it was still slow going. And when we were able to get by and actually see the scene, we could see detectives with the GBI, we could see Banks County Sheriff's deputies in that area, and they were investigating, taking pictures. The area was cordoned off. We could see a white SUV and what appeared to be bullet holes on the outside of the vehicle. So you could tell that there was some sort of exchange of gunfire with that SUV that was off to the side of the highway. And again, this all started right around 5:30 this morning, and that road was slow going up until just about 10:30, and I was just looking on the map and there, so I suspect that it is back open at this hour. The good news, though, confirmation from the GBI that no officers were hurt in this shooting.
Don, I really appreciate the reporting. Now you're going to stay on top of it, and we will hear more from you on all the stories that we're following here in our Metro Atlanta community coming up for Atlanta News First News at noon. So I'm going to let you get back to that. I did also want to talk about some other stories that we're following here. This one out of Clayton County. We first reported to you on air, kind of catching everybody up now here on ANF Plus. 4 suspects in custody after an armed robbery, a high-speed chase, and a deputy-involved shooting beneath the airport tunnel. That scene shut down part of the area. Atlanta News First reporter Mary Kate Hamilton is at the Clayton County Sheriff's Office with the latest. Take a look.
Office. This all started when 3 men and a young teenager robbed a man at gunpoint with assault-style rifles, took his cell phone, took the victim's gun, and then sped off. Take a look at the scene this chase eventually caused, and I'm going to take you to the beginning. The victim called 911 and told dispatchers the suspect left in a bright orange Kia. Clayton County Sheriff's deputies then began their search for the distinct car, and when they found it, they said deputies tried to pull the car over on Old National Highway, and it sped off. A high-speed chase began, and deputies say they were finally able to disable the car underneath the airport runway tunnel on I-285. That's when the suspects got out of the car and ran. One was shot in the leg by a Clayton County deputy. He was alert, conscious, and breathing. All 4 of the suspects are now in custody. 2 18-year-olds, Montarian Stone and Renardo Goodwin, a 28-year-old Deshante Phillips, and a 14-year-old. Because he's a juvenile, his identity is not being released. We don't know which of the 4 victims was shot, but again, all 4 are in custody. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation has taken this investigation over, as is standard for any deputy-involved shooting. We are working closely with officials to get more information this morning, and we'll bring it straight to you. For now, reporting from Clayton County, Mary Kate Hamilton, Atlanta News First.
All right, thank you, Mary Kate, for that report. And another investigation, police looking into it after a woman was found dead in her car along Springside Place. We have our Atlanta News First reporter, Sarah Hammond, on this story with the latest of what we're learning and still the questions that remain unanswered.
That scene on Springside Place is since wrapped up, but we saw a tow truck take away the car that was at the center of this investigation for several hours overnight. And Atlanta police tell us when they responded to this scene just before 1:30 this morning, they found a 36-year-old woman dead in the driver's seat of her SUV. They say it looks like she'd been shot several times. This again on Springside Place in southeast Atlanta off of Cleveland Avenue. Atlanta police said it's early in the investigation, but it appears someone shot into the car multiple times. They are considering this a homicide, and they say they don't know yet if the woman lives in that neighborhood, so they are looking for any information that can help in this case.
We push Crime Stoppers a lot, 44577 tips. That really is valuable to us. People don't really understand it, and it is anonymous. So if anybody has information, they can call in and leave a tip. And we really do appreciate those tips. They're very valuable.
Lieutenant Christopher Butler, who you just heard from, emphasized the importance of cameras and neighbors in this case to try to piece together exactly what happened overnight. At the Atlanta Police Department headquarters, Sarah Hammond, Atlanta News First.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I want to take folks more to the national stage, a major shift in the U.S. war with Iran. Both countries now agreeing to a ceasefire, with President Donald Trump holding off on threats to strike Iran's power plants and wipe out what he called the Iranian civilization. We want to take you now to a CNN report detailing the latest of what came out of the updates last night.
Key to the temporary ceasefire agreement between Iran and the U.S. is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says its military will coordinate passage through the strait, through which millions of barrels of crude oil and refined fuel travel every day. The waterway is also a key part of the global supply chain for many different goods. Shortly after President Donald Trump announced he'd agreed to the ceasefire, missile attacks were reported in Israel and across the Gulf region. An official said the U.S. military paused strikes on Iran, but according to an Israeli military spokesperson, Israel was still carrying out strikes as of late Tuesday. Some have expressed concerns over details reported about the ceasefire deal. Former Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger writing, quote, "Good Lord, if we cede control of the strait to Iran and agree to reparations, this will be the biggest humiliation in American history." Democratic lawmakers saying the ceasefire isn't enough.
Well, a 2-week ceasefire is insufficient. We need a permanent end to Donald Trump's reckless war of choice.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries again calling for Congress to rein the Trump administration in.
House Democrats have demanded that Speaker Mike Johnson immediately reconvene the House back into session so we can move a war powers resolution.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
And taking you back locally here to Georgia's 14th District, Republican Clay Fuller has won the special election to replace none other than Marjorie Taylor-Greene. Now, Fuller defeated Democrat Shawn Harris in the runoff election to replace the former Congresswoman. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon has more on what happens next.
Voters elected Clay Fuller Tuesday night in a special election to fill the vacant seat of Marjorie Taylor-Greene. Fuller, a former prosecutor in the 14th District and a veteran, was the hand-picked candidate of President Donald Trump.
And I'm going to go and fight for you. And just like President Trump said, I will never let you down.
His opponent, Shawn Harris, also a veteran and a cattle farmer, showed the district might be shifting. He lost to Greene by almost 30 points in 2024. He trailed Fuller on Tuesday by only 10%.
So I own it. We're going to learn from it. We're going to get better. And then come November, our ground game will be even better, and we will win this election in November.
Before polls closed, voters in the 14th District told us they were voting less for candidates and more for policies that will make life cheaper.
Cost of living is number one right now.
It's just that the country is in such a hellhole. He can be the milkman. I'm with it. You know how much milk and eggs cost? You're with the regular people. I'm voting for you.
For a special election, turnout was higher than normal. Paulding County alone saw 16,000 early votes and another 15,000 in person on Tuesday. Election Supervisor Deidre Holden says she was happy to see people participating.
Because this seat holds power and it's going to determine what side controls the House, and we are seeing a lot of people that are concerned that's coming out, exercising their right to vote as they should in every election.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
And just days after a 16-year-old was killed in a shooting at Piedmont Park, Atlanta leaders now looking to overhaul how they permit and secure larger events. Our Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn reports from that same park ahead of another big attraction, the Dogwood Festival, set to take place this upcoming weekend.
The days of the open event without any controls and we just kind of play it by ear are over.
Charlie Cafton, who lives across from Piedmont Park, is among those calling for more robust permitting standards for big events in Atlanta. This just days after a 16-year-old was killed in a shooting at Atlanta's iconic park.
It was literally just an absolute chaotic, insane mess.
And this was before the shooting incident.
Oh, this was before the shooting incident.
Atlanta City Council member Alex Shawn in an email said Saturday was one of the most disruptive days he's ever seen in 30 years living next to Piedmont Park. Shawn wrote he's now writing new legislation to create stricter permitting for the city's special event programs. Councilmember Kelsey Bond echoed their support in an email writing, quote, "It's clear that we need an overhaul of this process to ensure that all park events of this size can be safe and positive for residents and visitors alike."
Piedmont Park, there are people shooting. Please, we need help.
Officials have stressed the shooting was not tied to the permitted festival earlier Saturday, where there were 11 sworn Atlanta police officers, 12 private security officers, and 2 medics for the 1,200 attendees. And in fact, in a 911 call just released, you hear the caller say there was an officer already on scene amidst the initial panic.
He said it's an officer with a female? Yes, there's 2 officers out here.
Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens said they are weighing if the 1 sworn officer for every 100 or so attendees that were present Saturday is sufficient for future events.
I look forward to working with Council President and the City Council to see if that's the appropriate number of required officers at an event.
Charlie said changes need to go beyond policing with better infrastructure for parking, bathrooms, and he's advocating for more ticket-only events.
We cannot have a repeat of what happened last weekend.
Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
All right, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, see how $100 could land you a $650,000 home in Cumming, Georgia. We're also going to take a look at how things are going in Augusta, Georgia, with a look with our sports team who is currently at the Masters. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Atlanta News First Plus starts now.
Welcome back to Atlanta News First Plus. Thank you for being with us here for the 11 o'clock hour as we catch you up on the stories that we're following in and around Metro Atlanta. And I want to take a moment to take you all the way to Augusta, where we have been following none other than the Masters. Our Atlanta News Sports team hard at work bringing you the fun, the excitement as we ramp up to watch all of these golfers come to do what they do best and shine. We're going to take you out to Atlanta Sports Director Bailey Burmaster and sports reporter Avery Braxton with a look at all the fun and how things are going.
Welcome into Augusta National Golf Club. Avery Braxton, Bailey Burmaster. We are here getting you ready for this matchup that is coming in 2026. Avery, I have to talk about this first. This is my third Masters, your first. It's always great to get a first impression of the Masters from someone like yourself. What were your takeaways from visiting Augusta National?
First of all, Augusta National is beautiful. It is everything that people say it is. It's one thing to catch it on TV. It's a completely different thing to be out here, to be able to walk the grounds. And really just take it all in. And I think I was kind of skeptical of the rules, right? You can't have your phone out here or anything like that. But listening to some of these golfers talk about just how peaceful it is, you kind of get that same feeling not being connected to it. So it's been really cool. I'm very impressed by the Masters fashion. Everybody's got their little bit of green here and there. The line for the merch shop is something like Disney World. So it's been kind of cool to watch. But first impressions, very impressed.
And the grass, the greens, the fairways, let me tell you, they're in great condition. Can you agree to that?
I would agree with that, but it's not really about what I think. It's about what these golfers think. And as they've talked about talked through these first couple of practice rounds, listening to them describe, trying to get the firmness right, trying to understand what the grass speed looks like, they are impressed with this course and they're really excited to play it as they get into the first rounds on Thursday.
With no rain, you can expect this course to be a little extra fast, and that's something they are all prepping for. But let's talk about some of the players that will be making their appearance here at Augusta National. You can't talk about this lineup of individuals without talking about Rory McIlroy, who got that green jacket last year, finished the career Grand Slam. You saw him overcome with emotion in the playoff on 18, and he kind of said that this year there's a different feel, and that is because the weight has been lifted. And he thought really that once he was able to get and complete everything with the green jacket, that it would just be like, what's next? But that's not true. He said the goalposts keep moving, and now he's realizing he needs to enjoy the journey, then keep trying to get to the end goal. Someone else that could be hot on his coattails, though, is Scotty Scheffler. He's not far removed from winning a green jacket either, Avery.
Yeah, won it in 2022, won it in 2024, and kind of talked about having to go through some of the responsibilities of wearing the green jacket when you're at Augusta National, but he said he feels good as well. Obviously, Scotty's coming off a newborn. Just had his newborn son, Remy, about 10 days ago, so he's got his family in tow, and it kind of gives you that feeling of 2024 again when he had his son Bennett here for the first time. But Scotty said he feels pretty good. He's looking forward to getting back, but you're wondering maybe he has a little bit of rust coming because he hasn't played competitively since mid-March. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how he takes on this course, but listening to him talk about it, he talked about those subtle changes and how he really enjoys seeing the course shift just from one year to the next. So it'll be exciting to see how he takes this course on as well. Some of these other golfers, you've got a ton of newcomers here as well. It's going to be fun to watch.
Scotty, someone who was unable to win it in back-to-back years. Rory will also try and do that this year. However, there are only 3 people who have done that: Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. Someone else who keeps itching and getting closer for that green jacket is Bryson DeChambeau. And you actually, something great about the Masters is you meet no stranger. Everyone is friendly. Everyone wants to talk. Maybe it's not having phones, right? But the beauty of the course is you run into these people, you have conversations, and you actually ran into a family that has a really cool connection to Bryson.
Right. I ran into Ava Bresnahan. She was competing in the drive, chip, and putt finals over the weekend, and she had a really cool experience with Bryson DeChambeau, with her and a group of kids who actually got to play with him in a YouTube video a few months ago. She won her region in Texas and got a chance to play in the finals here at Augusta National last weekend. Had another chance to play with Bryson DeChambeau and had a putting competition with him. She described being able to putt with him and actually tied in that competition. And the thing about Bryson was he was so ecstatic, really joyful to answer that question for me about that experience because he loves giving back to the amateurs. And so being able to hang out with her, he talked a lot about talking to Asterisk Tally, who was in the amateur, the Anwar last weekend, and how much he just wants to give back. So I think it's going to be really cool seeing that family have that experience, root for Bryson, and he hopefully able to get over the hump. Had a top 5 finish last year. He's looking for that first Masters win.
Definitely a player who talks about mentality a lot, and he is not afraid to bring that competitor mentality to the Masters. Of course, one of the hot topics is the food. Did you have the pimento cheese sandwich, and what were your thoughts?
I'm not going to give my thoughts on the pimento cheese sandwich because for some
say it loud.
Yeah, I didn't.
Say it proud.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. But some of the other food that I've had out here has been fantastic. Egg salad's been great. The press food that we've had up there in that clubhouse has been fantastic. So I have no complaints. But pimento cheese, not for me.
Chicken salad sandwich is the best one if you really need to know. I have not tried the new candy bar, but we will have to get that underway here as the Masters also get underway here for 2026, and a new champion will be crowned on Sunday.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Yeah, an exciting 10-day stretch that we are looking forward to here in Atlanta, and we're cheering on our golfers and our team over there, WRDW, our sister station, covering all of the Masters fun. You can find that with us here in the free Atlanta News First app under the Sports tab. We'll be bringing you a play-by-play of all 10 days. Really exciting time here in Georgia all around, and the weather's warming up and it's perfect. Here's another thing to get excited about. We are announcing tomorrow ticket sales for the St. Jude Dream Home giveaway. You hear about us talking about it year after year, and we get more excited as each year passes because we see the impact it has on changing the lives of young children who find themselves dealing with something unimaginable, childhood cancer, and the families that have to navigate that suddenly and unexpectedly. And the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is there every step of the way. So I'm just showing you a little bit of some of the prizes that are on the table. This year's bigger and better than ever. $100. That is how much a ticket costs, and that could land you all of these wonderful prizes. Let's get into it. We're talking about a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home valued at $650,000. $100 for $650,000. That's a pretty great deal. You could also win a brand new car from Billy Howell Ford. The winner will get to choose from a 2026 Ford Bronco Sport or a 2026 Ford Maverick. And there's the Bronco right there for you, a beautiful brand new 2026 model, and the Ford as well. Let me know which one is calling to you. I'm personally a big Bronco fan over here. That's not all. The house, the cars, also the Academy Mortgage powered by Guild Mortgage coming back for another year of sponsoring an iconic golf cart valued at $10,000. And that very well could be yours for that $100 ticket that you buy tomorrow when ticket sales begin at 6 a.m. And that is not all. I'm going to keep going here. Again, like I said, year after year, we try to make the prizes bigger and better. And St. Jude came and made sure that this year it was something that you could not resist. So let's say the golf cart, the house, the cars somehow don't interest you. You could treat yourself to a little pampering with a $3,000 hotel gift card. That's courtesy of Renaissance Bank. But let's say you want a little bit more flexibility. The Dream Day Foundation is sponsoring a $10,000 Visa gift card, and you can buy whatever you want with that. $10,000 is yours to do what you want, buy what you want with that money, and all you need to do is mark on your calendar tomorrow and secure $100 to buy your St. Jude Dream Home ticket. Again, this is something you are not going to want to miss, and we want to make sure that you get excited and you have all the information that you need to participate. And if you think, what are the odds that I'm going to win any of those things? Don't count yourself out. I want to take you to what looked like 2025, and this was the St. Jude Dream Home 2025 giveaway winners of the house in Cumming, Georgia. This is them looking at it for the first time, but I want you to listen to their reaction and kind of their own words of what this $100 ticket did for them.
Positions with St. Jude where I'm like doing the manual work, because I've noticed that a lot of people, and this is nothing against the guys, but most of the volunteers are females, and when they're setting up for like events like something like this or any kind of a giveaway at auctions or what have you, a lot of material needs to be moved. Those are the kind of things I like to get involved in to help out.
Yes, not only were they ecstatic about being the winners, but you heard it from themselves. They said they wanted to volunteer, they wanted to just help, they wanted that $100 to go to what this giveaway is all about, supporting the fight to end childhood cancer. So whether you do put yourself in the running to win these prizes, or whether you draw $100 goes to childhood cancer research, to the services that St. Jude Children's Research Hospital offers, so that when families show up to the hospital, they don't have to worry about the financial burden, they don't have to worry about figuring out the logistics. All they have to worry about is their child's health, and that is more important for the body, more important for the mind than anything is a family that can come to a hospital with a lot of pain in their hearts and being supported every step of the way. And we have so many success stories from the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital on our website, AtlantaNewsFirst.com. But again, this 2026 house still in the works, and when it is done, we are talking about a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Well, wait, y'all need three.
Garage space, office space, yard space, you name it. These homes, every single year, are so magnificently beautiful, and $100 could change your life and put you in the running for this home and all of these other prizes that you're taking a look at. So, number on your screen, 470-777-9263. You want to text the word St. Jude to that number, and we'll send you a link to where you can get your ticket, and all of the information that I just talked about you can have on your phone ready to go, so you know where your money is going, you know how to follow along with us. Of course, we'll announce the winner and contact them when those ticket sales do conclude. The thing about the prizes, though, you want to get your ticket as soon as possible. That increases your chance of getting into the pool for these prizes. The house, the car, the golf court, the $10,000 gift card, those things start to fall off as we go further and further into these coming weeks and months. So day one is going to be your best bet to be in the running for every single one of these prizes. 6 a.m. are those ticket sales. Again, St. Jude is the word you're going to want to text, 470-777-9263. That's 470-777-9263. We're going to take another break here, and when we back, our Atlanta News First Investigates team takes you behind the investigation with a look at our continuing series, HOA Nightmare, with reporter Anastasia Olmos. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
a major development under the Gold Dome as a big piece of legislation passes both houses of the Georgia General Assembly. This is Atlanta News First Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe, and I'm joined by the investigative reporter who really made all of this happen, Anastasia Olmos. Stasi, tell us about how this bill started and where we are now.
So it's been a long time coming. The bill that has passed is called SB 406, the Property Owners Bill of Rights Act, and it is sponsored by Senator Matt Brass, co-sponsored right there by Donzella James, who's been leading this charge for upwards of 5 years now. So Senator Brass took on her study committee last year, and he originally had this plan. They had some hearing meetings. They proposed the bill as something else in the beginning of session, I believe it was, and then this second bill came up, and this was the most comprehensive, the one that seemed to kind of have the most work done to it, the most people behind it. It really is the state's first legislation to rein in HOA abuse of power, but also give HOAs just some guidelines that they can go by.
Yeah, so these are homeowners associations. You've been doing stories now, so many of them, that really inspired and pushed this bill forward. You may not take the credit, but I can tell you as the chief investigator, you've been on top of this story from the beginning. And this is really, as you said, the most comprehensive HOA bill. I know it's been a little watered down, but what would this bill do?
Essentially, it's going to assign oversight to the Secretary of State. So even though HOAs are nonprofits and have to file with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State really has no power to oversee, take complaints, anything like that. And there's really no other office in the state that will do it. We found that in our over a year of reporting. There's no office to hold these communities accountable. So the Secretary of State would have the power to do certain things. So one, when you register with Secretary of State, $100, it's going to help fund this office. That office will require 3 years of your documents, your financial documents, your bylaws, your covenants. What are the rules of the community that people have to follow? Sometimes, people don't know where to find them. Sometimes we can't even find them. They're supposed to be filed in the court or with the Secretary of State. You're also supposed to keep, as the HOA, 10 years of your own records. We've found that that's not happening in a lot of communities. And so with that, homeowners now have somewhere to go and give complaints or concerns. The Secretary of State can offer you a hearing officer, not an arbitrator, but very similar to mediation, where you can go and that hearing officer would have some power to see the documents, see, what's this homeowner saying, what am I finding, and then make a decision. Now, if you want to appeal that decision, then you can end up in court, which is one of the biggest issues that we found in our reporting is homeowners have no option but to go to court, and they're paying thousands, tens of thousands of dollars just to prove that they don't owe certain fines or whatever may be happening. So this is to keep homeowners out of court, give you this opportunity. And then the power that the Secretary of State has is to either revoke, deny, or suspend a registration. So they can remove a board member from the HOA if they see that they are possibly doing selective enforcement or things like that. It really gives some basic powers to the Secretary of State.
And you mentioned those liens and foreclosures. Did any of those regulations or laws change with this bill?
A big part of this bill was raising the threshold. So currently, an HOA can file to foreclose on a home when the outstanding balance on a lien is $2,000 or more. And that lien can come from anything. As I mentioned, leaving a trash bin out too long, faded shutters, the fines they rack up if you don't pay. They might put legal letters and charge you hundreds of dollars for those, $2,000, and you can lose your home. So this law raises that threshold to $4,000, and it's only dues. So fines and fees cannot be applied, interest, legal fees, all those things. Only your dues to be part of this HOA community. They give you 90-day notice. Originally it was 30 days in the bill. They changed it to 90 days so you have time to fix things. But if you are not participating in your community and you are not paying your dues at all, the caveat there is if you do reach $2,000, you're not paying, not making any sort of payments, and it's past 12 months, then they can file that foreclosure
But
filing.
no longer interest and fines can't drive you to where basically the HOA can foreclose on your home to satisfy those debts.
Nope. And a lot of the debate around the bill was 4,000. Why can't we make it, 25,000? And, one senator even tried to propose an amendment to 14,000. And it just kept getting shot down because HOAs use this foreclosure possibility as their power to keep people accountable for paying. And so if we were going to raise that threshold super high, there would need to be some sort of enforcement power that an HOA would get in exchange for that. And the other thing is the pushback. When you raise that threshold too high, does the bill have a chance to pass? And so where it is right now is just a basic, protection, hopefully, for homeowners.
And this act shall become effective on January 1st of 2027. In conclusion, I'd like to thank the homeowners and associations for their involvement and inputs, along with Atlanta News First Anesthesia Almas for reporting on this very important issue regarding homeowners.
That was Representative Ray Martinez, who carried the bill in the House, despite not pronouncing Anastasia correctly.
I'm so used to it. So used to it.
Of course, but he did, in fact, give you credit for this reporting. And it is also important to point out that this bill had a lot more in it, but there is another side of the story, and that's the HOAs. Some of these HOAs said, hey, this is going to be too tough for us to follow, right?
Right, and there's a lot of people involved in this. So you've got lawyers, you've got property management companies, you've got a lot of interest in these communities and HOAs, and they wanted to just start with a blanket law that just gives a basic oversight to some of the what lawmakers have called mischief happening throughout the state. But it's not necessarily to say HOAs are out of control and we can punish them now. It's also a hearing officer, a due process where you can also come as the HOA and bring complaints. For example, one community that we're in the past couple of weeks, we just aired this story. It's got a lot of issues on all sides. The HOA, was not technically voted in, but the community's water comes through HOA dues. And so it's really just a big mess. And the Secretary of State's office in the future would be somewhere where people could go when these things start happening before it grows into a huge issue like in the Whitehall Forest community in DeKalb County. Tatiana Pimentel used her life savings to buy her first home.
My house, I don't want to pay rent anymore, First time after 25 years in America.
Originally from Brazil, she and her fiancé, Obrin Sismil, moved from Florida and bought a townhome in DeKalb County's Whitehall Forest community in April 2024.
My dream house always have a townhouse.
But her dream quickly became another HOA nightmare.
Trash, trash, trash everywhere.
Homeowners say the community is plagued with piles of illegal dumping, vacant homes, fallen trees, broken pipes, and crime.
The drug dealing back here, it's crazy. I have a 6-year-old. It's unsafe.
A lot of these units are boarded up.
Yes, and some ones we board.
Despite the conditions, HOA dues here are $143 a month to cover lawn care, trash pickup, and water. We confirmed about 60% of homeowners aren't paying because they don't trust the HOA.
I'm not seeing what you're doing with my money.
But not all homeowners are facing consequences. Court records show Tatiana is one of 3 homeowners and 4 investment companies that the HOAs filed liens and foreclosure documents on since July 2025, claiming they haven't paid HOA dues in years. 7 cases are still open as of March 2026. Are you feeling like you're going to lose your home?
I feel I can lose my home.
Georgia law as of March 2026 allows an HOA to file foreclosure documents when a lien exceeds $2,000. The HOA claims Tatiana and Obrin owe nearly $10,000.
It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because when they bought the home, their closing documents showed a 0 HOA balance. But within a year of moving in, they received notice of a 4-year past due balance. It turns out the man who signed their closing HOA documents was not actually in charge of the association, according to state records. And Antonio Smith identified himself as the president and directed Tatiana to send dues to a UPS in Tucker.
We couldn't believe that HOA can exist in this kind of place.
HOAs register with the Secretary of State as nonprofits. Records show the state dissolved the Whitehall Forest HOA in 2021 and reinstated it 1 month after Tatiana and Oberon bought their home. Under Georgia law, a nonprofit dissolved and reinstated within 5 years can operate as if it never dissolved in the first place. In Georgia, HOA dues are supposed to be disclosed or paid at closing, but current law left Tatiana and Oberon with no way to know this was coming.
We talk with many people, nobody wants to help us.
I do this because I own property.
That's the current HOA president, Dean Hurd, on a homeowner's recorded cell phone video.
When is the last time we had an HOA meeting? I've sent multiple emails asking for the accounting, the books, the bylaws.
Residents also say they never voted for the current board.
I have never had a flyer in my mailbox saying, come to this meeting. So how did you get that position?
Some say they were told there was no HOA.
When I purchased my house, I was told that there was no HOA. It was dissolved.
We confirmed none of the board members currently live in their Whitehall Forest properties.
We're going to the secretary's house.
So this is the house that you boarded up?
Yes, I bought in the back because it's homeless people get inside.
This is also the address that the HOA is registered to.
Nice to meet you. I'm Anastasia.
We found the HOA president, Dean Hurd, outside one of his properties in the community. He denied an on-camera interview but confirmed there was no community vote. He says he took over to manage finances and clean things up, but says there's not enough money to do it. With only 40% of homeowners paying, the HOA brings in less than $70,000 a year. We checked with DeKalb County and found that the community's water bill runs nearly $20,000 a month due to broken pipes. The past due balance, $5.1 million. The HOA pays only $1,000 to $2,000 a month. So how's their water still on? The county confirmed every DeKalb Water customer pays into a shared fund to keep water running. And that water bill doesn't include the community's outstanding $24,000 sanitation bill as of March 2026.
We refused to pay HOA dues until it was some accountability.
Homeowners say they've tried to contact county departments for information regarding their bills and oversight, but they're told everything must go through the HOA.
If we have to go to the Supreme Court for them to regulate these associations, then that's exactly what I do. He will not get a dime from me.
What should we do?
Who will help us?
Who is responsible for all these things?
Stasi, fascinating story. What's that couple going to do now?
Well, they came to us, honestly, as their last resort. Tatiana had been emailing, Facebook messaging, Instagram messaging. She showed up at our front door. I mean, the level of desperation for so many people throughout the state who are trying to fight their homeowners associations who they feel have wronged them and have no option, can't find an attorney that will, one, either take their case or two, that they can afford. And so that's really where Tatiana and Oberon were when they came to us. They could not afford an attorney. Ones that they talked to told them to come to the media. That I just thought that was mind-blowing, the power that we have had in our reporting for these families.
Yeah, but your bill, essentially, I say your bill, it's not your bill, but the bill inspired by your reporting, which is very close to becoming law. I mean, now it only needs the governor's signature. And if that happens, then they don't have to go to court because really this isn't doing anything more than leveling the playing field. Because if you go to court against your HOA, they bring attorneys paid for by your dues, and you have to pay for your own attorney. And so already the playing field isn't level. What this would do is it would actually allow you to go to an intermediate step before having to file an official lawsuit and then getting an independent Secretary of State hearing officer to make a determination. Even though that could be appealed, that just might get you the relief you're looking for.
It's somewhere to go. I mean, I could jump off on 10 different angles from what you just said, but just, you know, to talk about Tatiana and Oberon specifically, they filed a police report, but is that police report going to actually go anywhere? I think a lot of these things are evidence that you could bring to the Secretary of State or, in their case, to a court because they do have that foreclosure filing. Now, overall, what we did learn, you know, title insurance, they're supposed to protect your property. So when her title insurance found out that there was a possible foreclosure filing coming on her home, they said, whoa, we will help you. This is why you pay us. We will pay it. And Tatiana said, well, I don't think that's right. I don't think I owe this money. But it's do you lose your home or do you think it's right? And so her title insurance says that they will pay, but they will continue to fight this, and the entire community is really behind Tatiana and Oprah.
Wow, another good reason to have title insurance, because that protects your investment should someone come along, because then, as you pointed out, the title insurance company is on the hook, so they now have an interest in providing legal advice or even counsel.
You do your due diligence when you buy a home. Make sure you have all the proper insurance. In this situation, you know, when she closed on her home and signed those closing documents, how was she to know that that was not the accurate HOA document or precedent? And so we are going to continue investigating in this community. There's still some questions that I am trying to find answers to, but just do all the due diligence you can. Go to the courthouse and see if you can pull information on the HOA. If you can, go talk to neighbors. I know Tatiana was in Florida when she bought the home, and so it was hard for her to see the community, but come visit, do what you can. And jumping off of, some of the legislation that has just passed, there is a little bit of concern from the advocates that were originally behind this bill. It was supposed to be, when the bill was written, a 5-person state board, and Senator Brass had given, certain votes to people to pick this 5-person state board. But the main thing for homeowners and advocates was that they wanted them to be unbiased. How you mentioned, they're a place to mediate where there was no bias. And there's some concern about who this hearing officer will be, or hearing officers, who they will be. Residents want to make sure that it's not someone that is in any business profiting off of the money that HOAs bring in. For example, law firms or property management companies, things like that. And so we actually are going to stay on this. Of course, HOA nightmares, it really feels to be never ending, but we're going to stay on this and see how this is implemented in the Secretary of State's office. If the governor signs it, of course, we're still waiting for that. But, how are they going to assign this hearing officer, and how will these cases look?
Yeah, and I know you're going to keep following it. Is there a chance that this is just the first salvo, and that in the next session of the General Assembly they're going to add to this law?
I am hearing a lot of talk about this just being a foundation. There are so many loopholes we found. If you watch our series HOA Nightmares, there are so many issues. For example, what fine is reasonable? Just because your covenants say that you have to have your trash bin, brought in by 6 p.m. at night or whatever it may be, is $1,000 fine reasonable? Law could cap those types of things. Law could make you give certain notice, warnings for these types of fines, things like that. And then we also found in this story in particular, there's some issue with an HOA being filed as a nonprofit, because we looked into, well, it was dissolved, so technically she shouldn't owe anything if it was dissolved by at the time that she bought the home. Well, nonprofit law says that if you reinstate your your nonprofit within 5 years, you can act as if it was never dissolved in the first place. So therefore, an HOA can be dormant for 4.5 years, decide we're coming back to the community, and then somehow back charge you for those 5 years. Yeah. There's some loopholes that still need to be looked at. I know that Senator Brass has said he is looking at some further legislation. He's actually interested in making HOA dues part of your mortgage. So the bank has the power to foreclose, not a homeowners association. And I know Representative Ray Martinez, he's very passionate about helping his constituents, and he's interested in working with us in HOA Nightmares and some of the stats that we've put together. In fact, we started a survey, and we found so many people are in lawsuits with liens on their homes. If you want to share your information, if you're having issues in your community, or if you're even an HOA and you want to share your insight with me, I welcome that. I talk with a lot of board members who are having issues with certain management companies and things like that. We have a form on our website, so if you go to atlantanewsfirst.com, we have a link there, HOA Nightmares. Click that, and on there, there's a form. Fill that out for us. And
that's on the Investigates page, correct?
That is on the Investigates page.
Great, excellent. Anastasia Olmos offering some anesthesia to ease the pain of HOA members. Thanks for that reporting and all of your work. This has been Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates.